It was another game week in FPL where some of the players we don't own scored points and some of the players we do own did not. And if that sounds pretty obvious, it's because it is. It happens every single game week. Yet for some reason this time out, everyone is freaking out and activating the wildcards. I told you last week what a mistake that would be. There's still 14 long game weeks to go until that second wildcard is active. And if you own the best asset in the game, there's absolutely no reason to play it right now. Yet, all I see everywhere is people activating their chips and then bragging all over social media about how great it is that they're making such a silly mistake. I don't get it. It's so bizarre.
Oh, I need to do it. I need to target the fixture swings.
Oh, I need Eze gone, they say. Like he hasn't scored one goal already, had another one wrongly ruled out, like he doesn't take all the free kicks and his fair share of the penalties. And oh yeah, he plays Everton, and that apparently makes him a must sell.
Oh, Nico Jackson started banging in all the points,
they say, like he doesn't only have 2 more good fixtures than a horrible run of difficult ones.
Have you not seen Arsenal's run?
Yeah, it's 3 good games, then it's Liverpool, Newcastle and Chelsea, the latter 2 away from home. Did you learn nothing from the mad panic to get the absolute must-have captain option Mo Salah for game week 5? How many points did he get again? Outscored by 4 teammates and matched by another 3, I heard. I must have heard wrong. The point is, there is only one must-have player in this game, and that is the Norse Force, Erling Haaland. If you've already got him, there is absolutely no need to wildcard, and it is an absolute mistake to do so. But I'm not getting into that again, because I spent half of last week's video talking about that. So if you want to recap, go and watch that video and boost my views. What is a shame though, is that my voice is small, and all the big content creators have already lured so many of you in. All of those algorithm acolytes have already convinced each other that the Gameweek 6 wildcard must be done, because one's done it, another one thinks he has to, then a third one thinks they must be onto something, and then before you know it, they're all freaking out and panicking. They're terrified that those 3 creators know something that they don't, so they activate the wildcard too, even though they've got absolutely no reason to do so. This past week, I saw Let's Talk Andy, the godfather of FPL content, the most respected voice in the field, and he sold Saka for Salah just so he had an excuse to activate that wildcard in game week 6 to get Saka back in. Like having Mo Salah against Wolves is a must wildcard situation or something. I've also just watched FPL Harry, with his incredible run of finishes, show his team for next week. He's got 2 players against Everton, 2 against Wolves, 1 each against Leicester, Man United, West Ham, Forest, Ipswich and Fulham, and his captain Haaland is against the Newcastle side in defensive disarray. Not a bad fixture among them, and he even has a sub against Forest too. And even someone as good as FPL Harry has spent days considering whether he needs to wildcard. By the time I get this video published, he might already have activated his chip in a week where his team has incredibly strong fixtures. And this is a situation that's being repeated over and over and over. Almost 1 million people wildcarded in game week 4. We'll probably see double that this week, maybe even triple. It's madness. It's absolute madness. And the reason they are succumbing to this insanity is because each of the rest of them are. They're all scared their reputations will take a hit if they don't do exactly what each other does, and then they get it wrong. Even though FPL Raptor constantly does the wrong thing, and yet he has a huge and devoted following because he has the balls to take the chances that the others will not. You have to understand how it works so you can understand what's going on. It's easier for them all to wildcard en masse and all be unlucky together and blame the craziness of the season than it is for them to stick the neck on the line and get it wrong. And now they're going to spend all week trying to convince you to do the same, and many of you already have, and many of you still will. And I tried, I did my best to talk you out of it, and I know I've most likely failed. It's hard for this solitary magpie to be heard over the buzzing of all the busy bees, pollinating your feeds with their waspish warbling. And while you're out there chasing honey, it's so easy to get trapped by the hive mind and end up getting stung. But this is precisely why they will keep bumbling around and failing to win this game, while I have every chance of swooping in, stealing the silverware and retiring to my nest as the world #1. But look, I know how hard it is to stand against a crowd, to stick your head above that parapet and risk getting shot down. So I'm going to try and help you, try and minimise the damage that you've done. If you have played your wild card, then this is the draft you should be going for. This squad is your best chance of making the most of a bad situation. You've got Raya and Flecken in goal. Raya's the best goalkeeper and Flecken is the best cover for those 3 tricky fixtures. This is simple, don't overthink it. In defence, you've got Trent, Gabriel and Rico Lewis, the 3 you'll start most game weeks.
Oh, but Walker started against Arsenal.
Aye, and he was shite. He offered nothing in attack except for crap long ranges, and he was at fault for both goals. It's laughable Walker was selected over Trent in the summer when he's weaker in every area, and it's blatantly obvious Rico Lewis is better than him now, especially if Rodri is going to be out long term. Trent and Gabriel need no explanation, and you can play them against anyone. Greaves is the best 4 million man with the best run of fixtures, and while I know he might have Liverpool and City in the next 3 fixtures, you won't play him in them anyway. After that, he has the best run until the second wildcard of any defender in the game, and he played several games up front last season. It's an absolute no-brainer. The midfield picks itself. Savio is the outlier name, but he's in great form and has a sensational run of fixtures.
Oh, but what about Pepper and Let?
Savio started 4 out of 5 games in the league and he's absolutely electric. Savio is worth the punt. Up front, it's obviously Erling Haaland. We found out Chris Wood's on penalties. He's banging form and has a dream run of fixtures, so he's a second striker. Jacob Strand-Larsen isn't being discussed anywhere, but he is easily the best budget striker for this situation. He's got 2 returns already from Arsenal, Chelsea, Forest, Newcastle and Villa. Most importantly, he can sit on your bench until the second wildcard, and those Liverpool or City fixtures in the next 3 aside, you can call him up whenever you fancy rotating him in. Strand-Larsen is the perfect enabler striker until that second wildcard, meaning you can save and spend those precious transfers elsewhere. Most of you should be able to afford that squad. If you can't, get a 4 million goalkeeper instead of Flecken, or get Robertson instead of Alexander-Arnold, or McNeil or Smith Rowe instead of Savio or something. It's easy enough. Just keep the long term in mind, because you've got 14 long game weeks to go until that second wildcard. Right, that's enough wildcard talk for now, at least until I play my own in game week 12 or 13, like the eventual winner of this season's game will do. All this focus on what might happen risks detracting from what actually has happened. And game week 5 was a huge one in the League of Gentlemen. Quitting his podcast to focus on FPL research has had the opposite effect for Metal Mark, with his team plummeting to second bottom, ahead only of Terminator Triss's ultra differential team. The downfall of GW6 continues apace as he fell 5 places to find himself in 30th spot. Jez Messon has already told me that the Grinch has wildcarded, and I can only hope he isn't too proud to take the advice I offered earlier in the video, because as much as I enjoy beating him, if I'm honest, it's hard to see him struggle so much, and I want to see him climb back up these ranks. For all he's a wind-up merchant, GW6 is a top man, one I'm proud to call a friend. Keep on fighting, Simon. You can get back up these rankings. Take my advice and come and join us back up at the top. You're only 114 points off first place. 5 years ago, King Dean won the title from further behind than that, much further on in the season. Even if you won't beat me, you can still get that silver medal. Come on, mate. We miss you up here. Ahead of the Grinch, Lionheart Lamb, Steve the Artist and Slick Rick climbed several places, while Professor Story, Private Parvesh and Mac Daddy McMahon slipped in the rankings. The resurgence of newly discovered 2013 champ The Ox continues, with a monster 80-point game week seeing him leapfrog Deadly Daz, the Butcher, Mighty Mouse and Hugh Horner right into the top 20. The wildcard in Rough Rider climbed in the table, as did former winners of the League of Gentlemen Jock and Jeeves and Daniel Gestoso Cabezas, all of whom rose a handful of places. King Ding was replaced in the top 10 by Sirloin Sean, with the big difference being Sirloin started the sizzling Mazrouai while King Ding left him on the bench, while the gentlemen from 9th to 5th are separated by only 7 points. In 4th place is where you'll find my team, and while you think I might be disheartened by my second 1 place fall in 2 game weeks, I'm actually buzzing with how this game week has gone. For one, I ignored the cries of the AI androids that Salah was the most must-have, can't-miss, undeniable greatest captaincy option ever. And not only did Captain Haaland bring me in more points than Captain Salah would have done, I didn't even bring in Salah at all. You won't find me making silly transfers to justify the mistake of a wild card. I want Saka for the next 3 game weeks, so I wasn't just going to transfer him out for a 1-week punt like a former leader who's now scared of going against a crowd. Likewise with Isak. I could have sold him for Watkins, but I gambled that owning Isak for game week 5 and Havertz for game week 6 through 8 would yield more points than owning Watkins for the same time frame. So I was prepared to risk weakening my team for 1 game week to strengthen them in the longer term. As it turns out, those FPL gods seem to favour my faith, rewarding my devotion with 19 points from my Aston Villa pair, including extra bonus points added 24 hours after the match, and also 9 points for Dean Henderson. And not only that, despite my only Liverpool attacker being the non-playing Jota, I climbed 150,000 places in the overall rankings. I'm not too worried about going from 2nd to 4th in that time frame, because over the last 2 weeks I've actually closed the gap on top spot from 20 points to 18. So I'm actually closer to my goals, even if I superficially appear further away. All in all, it was a good game week. However, I have taken an almighty gamble for game week 6, and on Sunday night, 6 days before the deadline, I made 4 transfers for a 4-point hit. And I'm not going to be all mysterious about it. I did Konsa, Ahmad, Isak and Jota to Gabriel and Guermo, Luis Diaz and Chris Wood. I don't like moving so early, and indeed, I was punished 2 game weeks ago when I did so with Joao Pedro. However, there will be much volatility in the transfer prices this week, and I did not want to risk missing out on the players that I really want. To win this game, you can't just do what everyone else is doing and play it safe all the time. Sometimes you have to make the big balls calls. I believe those transfers, even with a 4-point hit, give my squad the best balance and attack power over the next 6 or 7 game weeks until my likely game week 12 or 13 wildcard. It's not ideal, but I believe it's the right call, and in a few days we'll all find out together whether or not I was correct. Soaring past me was Dan the Dragon, who has scored 163 points in the last 2 game weeks and risen over 2 million places in the overall rankings. He did get a bit lucky with the 10 points of Rodgers coming off the bench in place of the non-playing Jota, but that just goes to show the importance of having strong substitutes, which is something all you wildcarders should bear in mind. It's the Dragon's market manoeuvres that have been crucial to his success, with previous signings Smith Rowe, Luis Diaz and Rodgers contributing 34 points this game week, which is a stark contrast to the 3 points in 4 game weeks I've gained from the only 2 transfers I've made before the game week 5 deadline. A situation I desperately need to change this week, while the Dragon hopes will continue indefinitely. The Dragon is now only 1 point behind second place John Go Cartin, whose time at the top lasted only 1 game week, just as it did 3 seasons ago. Back then, losing top spot saw Go Cartin slip right out of contention, going from 2 points ahead in game week 30 to finishing 139 points off the pace after game week 38. He will be desperate to ensure history does not repeat itself, although wasting transfers on substitute goalkeepers is perhaps not the best way to make that happen, especially given the wheeling dealing Dragons transfer aptitude has proven so masterful. Go Karting falling to second place means, of course, that Gladiator Glenn is back on top. I had a meeting with Jez Messing before the transfer deadline, and I left that meeting feeling this might be the case. After he showed me some undercover CCTV footage from the Gladiators training ground. In that footage, Glenn gave a rousing speech to his beleaguered troops, vowing to prove the doubters wrong.
My name is
Glenn Morton,
Commander of
the mighty toe cutters,
and I will have my vengeance
on Lord John.
in this life or the next.
For me, that's quite scary stuff. But fair play to him. He took my dismissive approach and rammed my words right down my throat. The Gladiators stormed 9 points clear with a team featuring no Haaland, no Salah, Ramsdale in goal and 2 £4 million defenders. And the rest of us leave the game week feeling lucky that the Gladiator made the bizarre decision to bench Nico Jackson and Colwill, because those 23 points he's missed out on would have been devastating to our chances of catching him. However, as we approach a game week where mob mentality is taking over, where the new capo di tutti e capi is none other than Tommy Template, and where millions of street bosses are falling under his rule, it's simply magnifica to see somebody go against the conventional wisdom and come out leading the pack, rather than cowering in fear of his power. Il Gladiatore inspires me. Showing cojones like that is what the gentlemanly ways are all about, and it's why the League of Gentlemen is the world's greatest mini-league. I only hope some of you watching see what is actually possible in this game, and then I hope you find the courage to stick 7 fingers up at those AI androids and show them what real artistry is all about. Ahead of Game Week 6, may all your transfers be successes, may all your arrows be green, and may those FPL gods be in your favour. Steal the hoodie from the Hive mind by hitting that subscribe button, and we will see you next time.
It's an FPL Nightmare, company pulling out more, yeah. I'm the greatest football manager to ever grace the old armchair, but the FPL gods hate me, and no one seems to care that my points are only average, and my ranking is not fair.